My friend, thank you so much for being here. I have a massive announcement. Looking forward to diving in here with many of you on such an important topic in my life, something I've been working on over the past 8 years, but really it's been since I had my cyber attack about 8.5 years ago in the making, something I've wanted to bring to the world. And about a month ago, we released it, Cybersecurity for Everyday People, a way to really simplify such a complex topic in a world that we all need to understand it. Really looking forward to diving in to this topic with you today. We're not just going to talk about cybersecurity, we're also going to talk about the mindset shift that you, your community, your kids, your family need to have in order to live more safe, more secure online. These online threats also threaten our physical lives as well. We're going to dive a little bit into that, but I'm extremely excited you decided to join us for this live today. Something I'm extremely passionate about. Hopefully that comes through to you in the stories that I'm going to tell. This is the book that when I set out about 2 years ago writing, I wanted to just write the stories that I wish I had 8 years ago before I had my cyber attack, the stories that I wish somebody would have told me to be able to just help me come to that mindset shift of this is real, this can happen to anybody, and that we need to take action in order to prevent it. And I learn best through story, and I think that most of us do as well. You know, we don't really want information in a step-by-step guide. We learn by hearing people's trials, tribulations, the things that they go through. And we're going to talk about some of the biggest stories, 5 specific stories and 5 points, key takeaways that you can take away from today's live, whether you decide to get the book or not. I hope to get this book in everybody's hands across the world, but I know that may not happen. So if you watch today, you'll be able to take away 5 key tips, 5 key stories that I learned these most critical lessons from speaking with thousands of CEOs, former presidents, former military officers, asking them the simple question of what barriers do you face in explaining this to your team, your family, your kids, the people that you care about in your community that are preventing them from getting to the point of understanding how they can protect, feel safer, feel more secure online like they may feel in the physical world. And we've had some great feedback. Some of them have been more around, I wish it was more technical. We made this book non-technical for a reason. This is for the everyday person, the person that may not be as technically savvy as many of us. You may be a millennial, you may be in a different generation, but most people in our world are trying to solve a problem, whatever problem you're trying to solve. For me, 8 years ago, I was trying to help people develop and market their business through websites and applications. And I was at Major League Baseball spring training, got done with a 4-hour practice in the warm Florida heat. Obviously, trying to recharge myself. My phone was blowing up. My business partner had texted and said, Greg, you have to check out this client's website. It was one of our biggest clients. It was a national yoga studio. And what I saw on the other end of that made my heart drop into my stomach. It was not the website we had developed. We created a great product, a scheduling portion of that website. And the website had been used for a derogatory market. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what cybersecurity was at the time. I didn't know that somebody could get into a house that I felt the locks were on. And that moment is what has brought me to today, what brought me to, after I got done with professional baseball, I decided to dive headfirst into cybersecurity because I knew other people needed these stories. They didn't need the step-by-step, go do these technical things. They needed the mindset shift to get from this is a reality and here are some simple things you can do now and in the future to protect yourself from these types of attacks going forward. Most people think about bank fraud, they think about social media stalking, some of those things when cybersecurity comes up. But a lot of times the people that call me, the individuals, the companies, it comes down to money, and we want to help preserve people's safety and security because we all love that feeling of having safety and security in our lives. And that's so important for the results that people are getting from this book. We just received this morning that we were able to sell 500 copies in our first month through our website. We're going to include the link to the ability to either purchase it through our website or on Amazon, whichever is most convenient for you, whether you're purchasing it for yourself or a family member. We've made this book extremely understandable, even to the younger audience, because we feel like they are our future. And I feel like the education system needs to be telling them these types of things as opposed to just shipping out to the school's IT person or the district's IT to make sure those students are protected, because we've seen schools have rampant ransomware and attacks over the past couple of years. And we want our students to know these simple tips. So, because if they can do it, they can give it to their kids. And that to me is legacy. It's not a monetary legacy. It's a knowledge legacy that gets passed down. And the digital world is going nowhere. It's going to continue to ramp up. And we want to help the everyday person really lift themselves up, their community, their family through cybersecurity and through digital security, and live their life with more well-being. Safety and security is a part of well-being, in my opinion, and I think it's huge to get to that point. So I just want to bounce to a couple stories in the book specifically about my digital awakening. So I mentioned my cyber attack. I was a technical individual. I knew a little bit about development. I knew how things worked. And when I got that call about Greg, check our client's website, obviously the client was calling me because I was the CEO of the company, trying to figure out how to get back online. I didn't know how the internet was set up, and you don't really have to know how it's set up to understand how to protect yourself. But they attacked one of our databases, which basically pushed information, graphics to the website and corrupted it. And that can happen to anybody. That can be corrupting your laptop that you use for work, or getting into your bank account and blocking you out of it so that you can't access your funds. These are all things that have happened to people that have called me over the past year. And I want to make sure that, because I didn't know what cybersecurity was, I want to make sure you walk away from this live knowing what cybersecurity really means. Cyber is connected and security is the protection of. So cybersecurity is just the connection or the security of the connected world through the internet, through the people and relationships we have, and through the accounts we use to live our best lives. So I just wanted to establish that. Most people think cybersecurity, they think hacking. This book is not a book about hacking or how to get a career in cybersecurity or how to protect a national defense organization. It is really about protecting the households that really make up our communities. And then if you have your own business, protecting that business just like you would yourself at home. And that's really the first chapter, my digital awakening. I feel like that's where the mindset shift is going to come from, when you understand that digital awakening, what it looked like for me and for a few others that we mentioned in this book, and what your digital awakening may look like, or how you can create that awakening through this live or through reading this book, to make sure it's not something that is as painful as me and hundreds of others that I've helped have gone through. After I got out of baseball, when I decided to dive headfirst into cybersecurity, I started to work in the defense contracting world, which was a shock because I was going from a private website and application development business, obviously, to sports, which is way different, and then directly to work with military officers who lived and breathed this every day. And one of the things I was curious of is they knew this information. They knew what cybersecurity was for an organization, but most of them were not doing it at home. So when they would have a cyber attack or some type of data breach at the government level, they would map it back to somebody's household. Somebody from a nation state country got in through somebody's household, and that allowed them to get into their laptop or their phone that they were bringing into the government installation. So it really all starts with the household, the mindset that and the conversations you're having at the dinner table. I think that's what I really wanted to convey in this book, is that security of the connected world isn't just when you go to work. It's not just when you're at your church or when you're in your community. It spans all the way through to that starting point of connection, which is most of the time at home when you're paying your bills, or when you're working from home on that snow day. That's the thing that is really where the security breaches start. It's not at the big company level. So I wanted to kind of establish that as the initial baseline. That's what we see a lot today. CEOs ask us, we know we're secure in our company because we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions, to protect our network and our people. But we're so uncertain about what's going on when our folks are at home. And obviously remote work is a huge thing today. And that's critically important. So that's something that I realized early on when I had my cyber attack in my first company. And I really wanted to start there with folks. So I would ask people in interviews. I've interviewed over 100 CEOs, thousands of military officers, thousands of business executives through my cybersecurity career, helping them understand how to protect their company first, and then the people that they employ on their team at home as well. And the question I ask every time is, what is your biggest concern? And they would mention, I don't know what's happening when they leave this building. The devices, our information, our banking details, our money is moving around constantly. And that's the connected world that we live in today. In each chapter, we have key takeaways and we have an exercise. I'm huge on distilling down information through the chapter, through the stories, trying to take those key nuggets, put them in the key takeaways, and then give you an exercise that you can actually do physically and mentally with your family, with your kids, so things that are extremely simple. And in most of those exercises, it actually tells you what you can do in your household to click on certain buttons and put on certain security measures very simply. You don't need an expert to do this, to allow yourself to be a little bit more safe, a little bit more secure. Most of this comes back to the mindset piece. I've hit on that a couple of times. But when we feel safe and secure, we've done the things we know we need to do. There's a peace about that. There's a freedom, a peacefulness that comes from that actually taking place. I talk a lot about the connected future. What does that look like? Where are we headed with AI? I don't get extremely technical. I just talk about the tools we use in our everyday lives, the security systems we use at home, how we can use technology as a positive. I think technology is such an amazing, powerful tool, but you have to have that forward-looking mindset in order to really feel more safe and secure in the life that you live. And it's unique to you. A lot of it's going to come down to, what are you hoping to achieve? What problem are you solving in the world? We're not going to get too deep into that in this book, but everybody's trying to solve a problem, whether you're in healthcare. For me, it's cybersecurity, obviously. Whether you're in operations, you're in the military, and you're on a defense mission, you're a doctor. You could come from any industry. You're trying to solve a specific problem for a specific set of people, and that's a common ground we can all meet on. But that problem can be disrupted when we don't have these things in place because we're depending on the internet to operate. So I want everybody to kind of baseline on that. The problem you're solving is so relevant to your success, your fulfillment in life. And this book is going to help you really prevent anything from disrupting that. And that's the point of this book. We talk a little bit about the darkness of the connected world. I've seen everything from nation state hackers to next door neighbors to former bosses, former partners that have used digital means to corrupt people. And that is some of the darkness that comes from the connected world that I want to help you avoid. But it's very necessary and required to understand there is that darkness out there, but there's also a lot of positive and light out there that we need to recognize and harness, and then make sure we minimize the negatives and that darkness out there. Talk a lot about the foundation, what you can actually do about that darkness from a simple standpoint. One of the characters in this book, one of the inspirations of this book was a client that I had early on in my journey after I started Valor Cybersecurity. Her name was Beth, and she ran a digital art business. It was right around the COVID time, 2020, 2021. She had a cyber attack at home. So it resonated with me because I had a cyber attack when I had a small business. I wasn't able to map it back to my specific household because I was moving at that time. But it was mapped back to one of our team members' laptops. And that laptop was moving around to different offices, connecting to different Wi-Fis. And Beth, who we talk a lot about in this book because she allowed us to tell her story to make these concepts more relatable. She had a cyber attack at home to one of her bank accounts. That bank account was connected to her business. Her digital art business was taken off. It was a time where digital art was being sold at an all-time high. And obviously with cryptocurrency, there was a lot of digital art evolutions that were going on at a rapid pace, and she was able to ride that wave, and her business grew rapidly. And bad guys, girls, they saw that online and they wanted to go after her. So they started at her home. She was able to notice that there was things going on that looked fishy on her accounts, on her computer. So she reached out, and at the time she didn't think cybersecurity was really a thing. Obviously she felt the impacts, but she basically said, can you just clean our laptops and reset our passwords, and then we'll be good to go. We ended up doing that, but what we recommended was her doing kind of what we say is the foundation, that initial understanding, mindset shift, and assessment. And she was not as receptive to it. She kind of pushed it away and said, oh, this isn't going to happen again. And it ended up happening again to her company, and she found out that a payment from one of her clients to her was intercepted and taken. So she started to feel the pain. And sometimes we have to feel the pain in order to take action. I don't want you to have to feel that pain to go through it. But the stories we tell in this book about Beth is her going through that mindset shift over months and the weeks that we met with her to kind of get her to understand that we weren't fear mongering her. We were just trying to help her understand the basics of the internet, the ways that she can put simple things in place in her business that translate to her house, and overall make her feel more safe and secure as she navigated her life physically and digitally. It was such an incredible process that she actually mentioned it to me as I was talking about putting these stories out into the world through social media. I was starting to write the book, and she wanted to be a part of the conversation because she felt the impact. She's now somebody in the community we call a security champion. Any client she works with, she has certain things that she helps and relays to them on how secure she is in her world and how they can be more secure as well. This is something that this knowledge transfer is so important in today's world, and that's what we're really striving for, to impact people through this book. We talk a lot about next steps, what people can do. This is a maturity journey. It's a progressive type activity. You don't decide to be secure and then all of a sudden you're cyber secure, digital secure that next day. It's a progressive model. We mapped that out in this book through Beth's journey. It took her about a year and a half to get from that initial cyber attack to the light bulb moment that was, we really need this, and we're going to invest a portion of our company funds in order to do it, both for our business as well as our team members' households, to make sure we're all secure on the same page. And that's a part of culture. I think that is something we want to span through communities, but that starts at the dinner table. It starts in your household. It starts with the simple conversations of, how are you using the internet, and what can you do today to feel more safe and secure as you use it and enjoy the benefits. Talk a lot about implementation. I've always been an action taker, someone who has encouraged action when it comes to cybersecurity, because there's a lot of gatekeeping in this industry. There's a lot of people who make it more complex so that you'll pay them for them to come in as a service, whether that's in your household or that's for your business. That's been a long time thing that I fought with in the cybersecurity industry, is when I try to keep things extremely simple for people, give them the information for free. And if they get to a point where it reaches their understanding, then they can come hire a team like myself. But as opposed to saying, pay us and then we'll give you our top 5 items, we make sure we lay it all out through books like this, through guides. And this is all the stories that I tell when I go speak on stages and when I talk to CEOs about cybersecurity, and the way that they can relate to it and connect to it from person to person, not from business to business necessarily. So we lay out all of the things you can do to start the implementation and then mature over time. So it's a progressive model. How you can take it from your home to your work life. We recommend starting at home. That's why we wrote this book, Cybersecurity for Everyday People, because it starts at home. So if you can start there, then you can integrate it into your work life. If you're a CEO, a manager, even somebody just starting out, to help your company be a little bit more protected. That's a critical part of the connected world, is the way we work, the problem we go and solve, and how we ultimately are going to go out into the world and make our community more safe and secure. That's something I think leaders in the community need to do more of. especially when it comes to the digital side of things, because it's such a big part of our world today. Something I'm extremely excited about. We talk a lot about how to have the conversation at the dinner table, how to have conversations with kids from 5 years old all the way up to 18, 19-year-olds. How do you have this hard conversation about, we want to make sure you're situationally aware when you're out in public or when you're online in the digital world. We want to make sure you're protected. How do you start the initial conversation with the questions of, how have you been using the internet lately? Has there been anything that's made you feel unsafe? How do you just ask some baseline, simple questions? I always say questions are the best answers. We put all of those questions that you can start a conversation with, whether it's between you and your partner, you and your kids, you and your church group or community group, or you and your company. You can go to your CEO and ask these simple questions, and it'll get the conversation started. It'll get the mindset shift started if that person already hasn't had that light bulb moment. Social media. Many of us use social media. I know social media is such a huge part of the world today. How do you protect yourself on social media? How do you make sure your data is not being sold by other people from social media out into the world? How do you make sure you navigate social media in a safe way? What information should you share? What information should you not share? We cover all of that in a specific chapter in this book. This is one of the chapters we've gotten the most feedback on because it's most relevant to people once they secure their social media, once they see the threats of social media. Oftentimes they start to bring it into their house, and then they bring it into their business, then to their community. It's that step-by-step process as opposed to trying to do it all at once that can really overwhelm us. A lot of us use, applications for, our photos, cloud storage, things of that nature. We talk a lot about how to store things to make sure that it is protected in a way that you can have for years to come, because a lot of us want to keep those memories. That really is something that we talk about very briefly, because it's a very simple thing of where to store it, how to protect it, how to make a password. Very simple things that will prevent you from being the people that call us on the phone and say, I wish I would have changed my password because now somebody stole thousands of dollars from me. The community aspect. This book has built community in it. Obviously, between us and Beth, the people Beth has served, all the clients we've spoken with since starting Valor Cybersecurity, and all the clients I served before I started my own company. These are things I've mentioned to them, gotten feedback, and they said this was extremely helpful. So I wanted to put it in an all-in-one encompassing guide. And that's what cybersecurity for everyday people is. As we get to the end of the book, we talk a lot about, now that you've done these things for yourself, in your home, at your work, in your community, how do you continue to be a security champion? Obviously, I was an athlete, so I always looked at the champions on the team, the captains. The team that were champions were rowing in the same direction. They were combining their skill sets, their knowledge to be better together. And that's something that, because this world, and the digital world, is so connected, you have to be in this together. So you have to be on the same sheet of music with the people you do business with, the people that you really care about. They have to know these insights, these simple ways that you understand how to be safer and more secure digitally, and share it. So you have to be the champion in your own community. Sometimes that's hard to do. The story we tell with Beth is, it's very hard for her to tell her clients about how they were doing security different because of these events. But after one of her clients was really appreciative of her reaching out, and she felt that increase in dopamine, and she felt that pride of, we've been able to lead the way in our ecosystem, she started to host security meetups for other digital art businesses, which obviously helped her grow her business, but it also showed her as a leader in the community. And she was really a shining example of what a security champion looks like, to raise awareness, to advocate for the people she cared about, and to really show people what it looks like and be an example, be a great example in the community of how you can be forward-looking, forward-facing on something that's so relevant in many of our lives. We talk about a security champion plan. She helped us develop this security champion plan because she got so passionate about it. setting specific goals, developing a schedule of how her team was going to talk about it, and how she talked about it at home with her partner and her kids. It's just so wide ranging, and we were able to kind of encompass all of those stories into this in order to really make people feel, as I mentioned, more safe and secure, which is going to create a more peaceful and fulfilling life. That's what this is ultimately targeted at. It's not targeted to make people scared, make you fear being online. It's really your call to what we say digital vigilance. We need vigilance. We need awareness in the world that we live in today in most capacities, physically and digitally, whether it's going into a store and not walking into the store with your phone where somebody can, pickpocket you. That's happening every day online because people are unaware of what to look for. And this book really clarifies exactly what to look for online. One of the things we're offering for the first 3 months of this book being out, so we're about a month in, is some free guides, some guides on how you can walk your kids, your community, your family through an exercise that's going to help them understand and help you understand how they look at it, what their mindset is currently on it. We also offer the home cybersecurity toolkit. That's something we developed as a part of this book. What specifically can you do at home? Many of us have internet service providers. Think Cox, think Verizon, think Comcast. There's a couple other ones, AT&T. These organizations do not protect you by default. And that's something we commonly try to help people understand, is that they don't turn it on because they don't want it to be a service issue that they have to come back and service. So this home cybersecurity toolkit basically starts at that baseline. If they don't have anything turned on, here's some things, some simple steps you need to do to basically turn on those settings to make you protected. You can obviously get, another router that's your own. You can get a firewall and get all these sophisticated things, but it really starts with understanding that you start with zero security when you engage with somebody like Cox, Verizon, AT&T. Obviously, they're protecting themselves up to that point, but they're not protecting in your front door and then into your devices. They're protecting it when it gets back to them, and they have firewalls, all the sophisticated advanced type things. So we basically break down what you need to turn on. And then after you turn those things on, when somebody tries to get into your front door, it's locked and they're going to go to the next house, which is going to avoid you from having to feel the pain that I felt when I had my cyber attack about 8 years ago. And then after that, we recommend other things that you can do as you continue to mature. But it's really just getting started. That's what I wanted to really convey today in this live. Whether you decide to get this book or not, so thankful that you decided to join us. Hopefully you walk away with something that's going to help you have a better conversation, that mindset shift that we all need to be a little bit more safe and secure in today's digital world. Cybersecurity for everyday people. This is my second book. This is a book I feel like is going to be something that I'm going to cherish for a very long time. Something I hope you'll put in your hands and the people that you care about. This is a language of love for me because I had that painful situation about 8 years ago in my own business, just trying to solve a simple problem for people from a marketing standpoint. And I want you to avoid that pain that I went through. This is your survival guide to help protect your life and well-being in the digital age. The digital age is exciting. Stay excited, stay safe, stay secure. Until next time.